I'm going to title this video, The Black Karen. Now, Karen is a title that was given to white women that played the damsel in distress role and then turned and called the police on black people. Now we have it in reverse, where you have these violently aggressive black females that were tough, that were threatening, that was blocking this woman's path, that was trying to open this woman's car door. This woman did everything in her power to walk away. She even apologized. And she said, I care for you. And I'm sorry. But that was not enough for these violent, aggressive black females. But then when they realized this woman was armed and this woman pulled her firearm, then they started crying and they started playing the damsel in distress role and they started saying, call the police. But wait a minute. I thought they wanted to defund the police. I've heard quite a few black people say F the police. What about the so-called no snitching law? Even if you're not in that world, you're not supposed to snitch. But I'm going to let you watch this video and watch how quickly the roles switch when they learn that this female is armed. And I warned you guys in the past about messing with these white chicks. I told you that these white women carry and conceal. The little ones that look innocent and look like they can't defend themselves, y'all have to be careful who you run up on. And then I hear a lot of y'all talking about she didn't have to pull a gun. Well, what did you expect her to do when you have these savages that's blocking her vehicle, banging on her car, trying to open her car door, and threatening her and her husband? What did you expect her to do? So, I'm going to let you watch this video and watch how quickly this changed.
Wants to violate a 15-year-old.
No, I'm asking a question. She's a child.
She bumped into me when
So if she did something wrong, she needs to apologize. If she did
This
something
ignorant woman bumped into a 15-year-old.
Correct?
And you're on camera.
Okay.
You're feeling threatened.
Okay, well go in.
No, Mom.
I got this.
You're blocking me from getting my car. No, we weren't. No, we weren't. No, we weren't. You're ignorant.
You go ahead. No, we will. But you're not going to sit there and violate a 15-year-old.
She's ignorant.
Do it. Do it. I want you to talk about this.
She's very ignorant.
Dumbass bitch. Yeah, I said it. You say something, I'll beat your white ass. Oh, I will. Do something. Please put your
Do something. Do something.
Please.
Who the fuck do you think you guys
Who
are?
do you think
Who
you are?
do you think you are?
You called her name and you did nothing to
Yeah,
her.
I didn't. I didn't. No, you didn't. You're very racist and ignorant.
You're racist because you're calling
No,
her
you
name.
bumped it. She bumped into me. You cannot just walk around calling white people racist. This is not that kind of world. White people are racist. No one's
Why would
racist.
you bump her?
I
Why
care
did you
about
say
you.
sorry?
I care
Why
about
did you say
you.
sorry?
And I'm sorry if you
Why
had
did you say sorry?
Which made
If you
someone
bumped
make
into
you
her,
feel
why
like
did you
that.
say sorry?
No one is
If you
racist.
didn't,
I'm sorry if you had something like that happen. Ignorant. Ignorant. Very. Mom, watch. Get the fuck away from me. You don't get on her face. You gotta get on my face right now. Get away. Get the fuck away. Get away. Get the fuck away. Right now. Get the fuck away. Get away. Call the cops right now. Call them. Call the cops. Get the fuck away. Call the cops. Get away.
She got the gun on me.
Call them now.
Now wait a minute. Earlier, the white woman was telling them to call the police, and they was like, I will, but they were still violent, aggressive towards this woman. Now is, oh, you have a gun. And now they start saying, call the police, get her on video.
With the car. Call them. I'm telling. Get the
Call the cops.
Get the license plate. Get the license plate. Now. You were never about to hit him with the damn car. You about to hit him with the car? Don't be put the guns on him. Call Richard back up to the police. Call Richard back up here now.
I got it. Don't you fucking jump behind my car.
Tell me where you're going.
Don't you fucking go. Mom, stop moving.
a minute. They're now all crying and howling like they're really in distress. Oh my God, this white woman is pulling a gun on me. We didn't expect her to have that. We just wanted to jump them. You guys know how you watch these videos that they post on the internet when they say one-on-one, let's go head up, and then two people start fighting, and then the minute they start fighting, next thing you know, you have 3 or 4 other people jumping in, stomping and kicking them, right? So this woman was in every right, and I told these females on Facebook, and she came back and apologized because the only thing the fake news media showed was this white woman pulling a gun on black women. They started out by showing this white woman pulling a firearm on black women, and that's how CNN showed it. So now you had a lot of upset black people was saying that this woman was racist and pulled the gun, did not have to pull a gun on them. They was calling this woman crazy. But then when the black females went back and watched the whole video, then she came back and apologized. And she said she was ashamed that she even defended some nonsense like this. And that's why you guys have to be careful with the media. If anybody should know what the media does, is black people. Because black people have been the victim of the media since our ancestors been here. So now you have these black females playing the victim role. And they're crying. They're not as tough now. And it's interesting that this woman and her husband is able to get in their vehicle and drive away. Before they couldn't do it because you had these savages banging on the back of her car, trying to open the car door, yelling, threatening words at them. And now they're in tears and they're playing the victim. This is the black Karen.
You got all this on video? Yes. No. Mom, stop walking. Hello? Can you go back to your boy? They pulled the gun out on us. These white people, they're so racist.
These white people, they're so racist. They put the gun on us. The black Karen.
They pulled the gun on my mama, both of them. It was a white lady and a white man. Yes! Wants to.
That's the black Karen, y'all. That's the black Karen. It's really sad. And you know what? I was going to also do a video on these 2 interviews I saw. I saw an interview of this black dude that, and I'm still going to do it. They did an interview of this black man that lost his son in Chop. And now I watched an article early today where you had a black woman now was crying because they lost their child with this whole protest thing. Black Lives Matter. We're black people, of course, shooting black people, right? So now they're going to the same news media that they condemned and cursed, Fox News. And they're being interviewed by Fox News now, talking about how bad Black Lives Matter was. If I had known it was going to be this way, and I felt bad for the black dude, man, but the point is, it's like you didn't stop your son. You did not stop your son from being a part of that whole Black Lives Matter protest thing, not realizing that Black Lives Matter was infiltrated. We tried to warn you about that. And you called us out of our names. So it's unfortunate, but it's good. I'm not even going to say that. I'm not going to say that because you brought that upon yourself. Anyway, that's getting into my other video. I'll make a video on that later. But now we're starting to see the results of the so-called Black Lives Matter. You guys are cursing Trump and Trump followers for trying to do the right thing. And here it is. You're on the side. You're on the wrong side. You are on the wrong side. And if Joe Biden gets in there in office, if he get in there, if you guys vote him into office right now, listen, let me say this before I close this video, because there's so much I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna make a video on this too. There's a few videos that I have to make, so stay tuned. listen, I made a video in the past, and I'm going to put the link down here because that's going to be one of my videos I do. I did a video in the past on my dream channel of blacks in the beginning of the dream. Blacks were at the front of the bus. When the dream ended, or the vision ended, blacks were at the end of the bus. They were in the back of the bus. So they went from the front of the bus to the back of the bus, right? So the only thing these protests are doing, they're taking down these statues. That's not a black people thing, man. You walk past these statues every single day of your life. I'm 59 years old, and I've seen, and I'm going to tell you something about these statues. Those statues should remain. That's history. That's them erasing history again like they erased the black Americans' history. You see how they erasing history? That's how they did black American history. One time, my granddaughter, we was like near the Brooklyn Bridge, and my granddaughter, she's like 6 years old, and she saw the statues. And she was like, "Granddad, what is this?" And I took her up to the statue, and I started explaining. And see, it's important because, you know, the so-called white man, the paleface, is gonna give you a very limited amount of history towards things. It's up to the parent that have knowledge to give them that history plus the truth. The history that was omitted, that's the history you should add on to the history that was presented. See, that's how you teach your kids. So my granddaughter was asking me about these certain statues, and I read what was on the statues, and then I gave her more information, and she was so amazed. She was just like soaking in the information regarding these statues. And then she's like, "Well, what's this one over here, Granddad?" Went over there, I explained to that statue, we talked about that statue. She said, "Well, what about this one?" And she started pointing at every statue she saw in New York City. And I'm like, "Oh, that's enough of the statues right now. We'll talk about that again later." But she was so inspired, man, to know about that piece of history that was standing up there, that erected statue that was standing there. She was so interested in wanting to know about that piece of information. And I took time out to explain. I read what was on the statue, and then I explained the history behind it. And then her grandma was there too, you know, my son's mom, and she was also explaining. So it's good to have two parents that have knowledge, man. No, you don't destroy that history, man. You use that as a teaching tool, man, to instruct your children. If you feel that they're not telling the truth, the whole story, it's up to you as a parent to tell the whole story. But that's off my topic, and I'll do a video of that later. That might be my next video. All right, so stay tuned. My voice is kind of like messed up because I just woke up, and I kept saying I was going to do this video all week, and I just never got around to it. But I'm going to do a video on the statues later, and so you guys stay tuned. But what do you guys think of the black Karen? So you can't call the white woman a Karen if you yourself is a Karen, because you're only condemning yourself. You're only exposing you. So this is a great example of the black Karen playing the damsel in distress role. So feedback, tell me what you think. Until next time, I'm fearless.